So a few years ago, my family and I decided to pick up from Denver, Colorado and move to Dallas, Texas. And in this video, I'm gonna share exactly why we decided to move here in the first place and give you my honest opinion on whether we regret it or not and if it's been a good decision for us or not. And hopefully it helps you decide whether or not moving to Dallas, Texas is a good move for you. Hey, it's Michael.caraway. I'm a realtor here in the Dallas, Texas metro, and on this channel, we discuss what it's like to live in Dallas and all of the great places around here to live, so that you can decide whether or not Dallas, Texas is the right place for you to live. So when I bring up the fact that we moved from Colorado, Texas, people are like, what the heck? Why did you move here? Why did you give up all of the mountains, the skiing, the beautiful scenery, all of that kind of stuff? Seriously, I get that question all the time, and to be honest, it's fair. And if you had asked me 10 years ago if I ever thought I'd live in Texas, the answer would have been a clear no. Me and my family absolutely loved Colorado, being outside all the time, being in the mountains, just the lifestyle that was out in Denver, but somehow we found ourselves here in Texas. And I'm about to share exactly why we ended up in Texas in the first place, whether it's been a good move for us or not, and whether I'd recommend it to you or not. And before we jump into that, I want to make sure that you stick around to the end because I'm going to reveal 3 different tips that I would give anybody that's planning to move out of state to make it a seamless process that we learned in the process of moving from Colorado to Texas. All right, so I think the perfect place to start for this video is why did we move in the first place? Why were we even considering a move? So as I reflect back to that moment in time when we're in Colorado and we, started to think about the possibility of moving somewhere, it really was kind of a long time coming. We absolutely loved our life out in Colorado and it was absolutely amazing. But it was expensive out there, It's way more expensive in Colorado than what we were used to growing up in Iowa and what we currently have in Texas. And so we kind of just had a lot of things going on in our life at the time. We had COVID hit and everybody started working remotely. So that kind of opened our eyes to, we don't have to necessarily be in Colorado. We also were about to have our first daughter and we had it as a goal for my wife to be able to stay home with our kids as soon as we started having kids. And so we started looking at everything. We're like, hey, realistically, if we want to do all of this, if we still want for my wife to be able to stay home and me pursue my own business, we realistically are going to have to cut our expenses a lot. And that just wasn't realistic in Colorado. For context, our house in Colorado costs about double what we purchased in Texas. And it's pretty much copy paste the same floor plan, same amount of bedrooms and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the first step into, okay, maybe we could consider a move. And then we started looking at our lifestyle. We absolutely loved getting to the mountains, but we didn't do it every single day. It was more so like once every other week or something like that, where it wasn't like something that we continuously did. So we didn't necessarily take advantage of everything that Colorado had to offer and that we ultimately were paying for being there. What we loved to do was, go downtown, go out to restaurants, explore the city. Those are the kinds of things that we did on a day-to-day basis. And what we realized is that we didn't have to necessarily be in Denver to accommodate the lifestyle that we wanted. And again, that opened our eyes to looking at other places. And kind of the third consideration that we were looking at is that, hey, we wanted to move somewhere where there was a lot more going on than what there was in Denver. Denver is an amazing, amazing city. But once you get outside of the city of Denver, there's not much that goes on. And we wanted a place where we could live in the suburbs because we were more suburb people, but we could still get that feeling of a big city. We could have a ton of different options for restaurants. We wouldn't have to travel very far to be able to go to some amazing places to shop and eat and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, we weren't finding that in Denver. And so we started out on a search and we tried to figure out where we wanted to move to. And to be honest, we probably wouldn't have considered Texas except for the fact that we had visited before. We've been to Dallas before and we knew that it kind of had the lifestyle that we thought that it had the lifestyle that we were hoping for. And so it was a real possibility for us. So we decided, hey, I guess the next best step would be let's go visit again, see what's changed, and see if we could realistically see ourselves living there. And so by that point, we had our first daughter. I think she was like a few months old, and we took a road trip from Colorado to Texas. And in hindsight, that was a stupid decision, but we made it. And she actually did pretty good. She slept a lot of the trip, so grateful for that. But we came down here and we just drove around. We just kind of experienced the area and we drove all over the Dallas metro. We got to know all the different suburbs and ultimately we just decided to drive around and try to figure out what areas we could honestly see ourselves living in. And we were instantly attracted to the areas like Frisco, Plano, Allen, McKinney, Prosper, all of these areas in the north suburbs of Dallas that just seemed to kind of fit that lifestyle that we wanted. So we kind of checked the box and realized, okay, we could actually potentially live here, but then we had to go back to Colorado and actually make the decision, are we going to actually do this? And of course, that's when some of the doubts started coming up and some major concerns started to appear for us. And that's what we're going to cover right now. You know, one of the first major concerns that came to my mind was the fact that we weren't going to be around the mountains anymore. You know, even though we did not necessarily use them every single week, I absolutely loved every single moment that we got to go into the mountains. You know, between snowboarding and hiking or hunting and things like that, I absolutely loved being in the mountains. And I honestly kind of got sad at the idea of, you know, we may not be able to just drive downtown and see mountains off to the right hand side of the road. You know, and so that was, and still to this day, it's kind of a bummer for me as I think about it, but that was absolutely the number one concern that I had going into this whole idea of moving, was how much are we going to miss those mountains? But ultimately we decided that the lifestyle that we could potentially get in Dallas outweighed what we would get from the mountains in Denver. And so we kind of just crossed that off and we're like, you know what, I think that we can still accommodate that by doing things outside in Texas and still vacationing to Colorado. The other major concern was, are we actually going to save money? And at the time when we were moving, the real estate market was absolutely ridiculously hot and people were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking price. And so we didn't really know if we were going to be able to get the house that we wanted in a price point that we were comfortable paying that would still let us do everything that we wanted to do. But after doing a lot of browsing on Zillow and talking to several realtors down here, we got comfortable enough with the idea of being able to purchase a house that we want within the price point that we needed. The third major concern we had was that we were going to pick up and completely go into a place where we really didn't know a lot of people. We had a few extended family members that lived here, so we had that base to start right when we moved here, but we literally had zero friends and zero network. And going into a business like real estate, that can be really important. And so that was kind of a major concern for us was, you know, we're really not going to have that strong foundation of people that we had built out in Colorado. We're going to be moving away from all of those people. And, you know, that's kind of one of the downfalls of moving out of state that I think everybody experiences, is that you're picking up and leaving all the people that you've gotten to know and love over the, you know, the few years that you've lived there. So that was one of the major downfalls. But again, we kind of had to compare that to what are we gaining by moving to Dallas, and ultimately what we were gaining was more important than what we could get in Denver. And the other concern that we had was the heat. We had no idea of how hot it actually got. We assumed that it got pretty dang hot in Dallas, and we were a little intimidated by that because the weather out in Denver was absolutely beautiful in the summer. We didn't necessarily want to move somewhere where we're going to be miserable for several months. And ultimately we wouldn't know that until we moved there, and we ultimately just decided that we were going to give it a shot and hopefully everything turned out okay. And I can confidently say it has not been as hot as what we thought it might be. It still gets really hot, like I've mentioned in several other videos, but it is tolerable, and that's all that we care about being in Dallas now, because we get a lot of the advantages that we would not have gotten in Denver for simply putting up with a little bit of heat during the summer. So we ultimately decided, you know, we need to pick up and move to Dallas. The pros definitely outweighed the cons, and we just decided it was a move that my family and I needed to make, and so we picked up and moved. We bought a house without actually ever touring at first, which is kind of a necessary thing sometimes when you're moving from out of state, but it is not a requirement. And if you were buying a house from out of state, do not think that that has to be what is done. You can absolutely go visit now. The market is not as hot as it was when we were buying. You have time to get into houses and look before you place an offer, but sometimes it's necessary. And for us, it was necessary. So we put in an offer. As soon as it was accepted, we came down here and toured it. Well, I guess I did. My wife stayed home with our daughter, and ultimately we wanted to go through with the sale. And so we closed on the house, moved, and we officially were Texans. So what has our experience been so far? Honestly, I can say that moving here was an amazing decision. Life in Dallas has been absolutely great, and we've really just acclimated quickly to the lifestyle here. I feel like we've landed in a really great spot for families, which was really important to us, and it's allowed us to live the lifestyle that we want. You know, like I mentioned, we really like to get out on the town. We like to go shopping. We like to go out to eat and do date nights, go out with other people. And in my opinion, there's no better place to do that than the Dallas, Texas metro. There are so many restaurants and town centers here, it's ridiculous. And it's one of the reasons that we are attracted to the north suburbs in particular, because there are some amazing, amazing town centers. The places that have your eating, your dining, places to go drink. You have nail salons, you have everything that you need within a walkable town center. And these places are absolutely beautiful. You have places like the Boardwalk, which is super unique. You gotta check that place out. You got Stonebriar Mall, you got Waters Creek, you've got Allen Premium Outlets, you've got the Star. You've got tons of new development coming up, like the PGA development or the Fields development up north in Frisco. You've got Sloan's Corner that's coming to Allen. Just a ton of different developments that give you that town center feel in the suburbs. And that's ultimately what we wanted. We wanted that big city feel in the suburbs, and that's what you get in Dallas. And we couldn't be happier with how it's turned out since we moved here. We absolutely love that about this area. The other thing that we've absolutely fallen in love with around this area is that we can be outside for most of the year. You know, in Denver, once it got late fall into winter, you didn't really want to go outside and go running or anything like that. And for us, that was huge because we love running. We love going on walks and things like that, going to parks, checking out, you know, nature areas. But you couldn't necessarily do that comfortably in Colorado. But even in the coldest months here in Dallas, you find at least 1 or 2 times a week where it is comfortable enough to be able to go out for a walk or go for a run. In other words, you just get more time outside, which is perfect for us and is perfect for our lifestyle. One of the most unexpected things about living here that I didn't realize before we moved here was just how much growth is happening here. Like, I had no idea so many company headquarters were moving to this area. And if I had known that before, it would have been kind of a no-brainer. Like, this area is growing so fast, and being in business, that's a huge thing for me. I want to be in a place that is growing because not only is it healthy for business, but it's healthy for the local economy, and it's why we get so many great developments coming, like your Legacy West or your PGA headquarters or Fields development up in North Frisco. You're not going to get that in a place that is not growing, that's seeing population leave. And so that's a huge benefit of being in this area, is that you're just going to have endless amounts of things to do because of all of the things that are going to be developed because of how many people are moving to this area. And if you're in business, if you want to start your own business, or if you just are looking for an opportunity within business, this is a great place to be because there is so much going on. But that doesn't mean there hasn't been downfalls. Obviously, there's been some disappointments about moving to the Dallas area. For example, I miss the heck out of the mountains. You know, I mentioned this in the beginning of the video. I think about them all the time, and I really do miss being able to see them from our house. When we were in Denver, we could sit on our back patio and we could look out and see in the distance, we could see the mountains, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I miss being able to, you know, drive an hour and get into the mountains. You just can't get that in Dallas. It's one of the things I had to give up. You know, the other downfall that I've experienced is the property taxes. The property taxes here are absolutely crazy compared to Colorado and where we lived in Iowa. I was not expecting that. You know, everybody talked about the no state income tax when we were moving here. And so we're like, you know, we're gonna save a lot of money. But realistically, a lot of that gets eaten up with the property taxes that you're paying if you do buy a house. If you're not buying, then it doesn't affect you. And that's why this is a great place if you're a renter to move here, because you avoid income tax and you don't have to pay property tax. But that was an unexpected thing for us. Now, ultimately, we're still making more money by living here than we would in Colorado, but it is something that was just a little bit of a surprise for us. The other challenge has been meeting people. You know, we had a really solid network of people in Colorado, and just with any transition, when you come to a place where you don't really know many people, it's tough to build that initial network and that initial friend group. And we've started to build a really strong group of people here, but obviously it's a challenge for anybody, and it's a slow process if you're trying to build the right friends. So just know that when you're moving to a different place, you're gonna have to put yourself out there and start meeting people. And it's a little uncomfortable, but you know, you do it and you find some really great people along the way. But to be honest, that's really the biggest challenges. You know, if I'm looking at the pros and cons of us moving here, the pros far exceed the cons, and we're absolutely really happy with the move that we made. So would we do it all over again? The answer for us is absolutely. My wife and I both agree it has been an amazing move for us, and we did have to make some lifestyle changes along the way, but ultimately it's been great for our family, and we're really happy with the life that we're creating here in the Dallas, Texas metro. All right, so as promised, I'm gonna share 3 tips that we learned along the way from moving from Colorado to Dallas that are gonna make your transition to Dallas way smoother than what we experienced. And that first tip, you're already doing it. Do the research. Pull up Google Maps, read a bunch of articles, watch a bunch of videos, get familiar with the lay of the land so that you can make an educated decision of whether it makes sense for you to move to the area. Because that's the first decision you have to make is Dallas right for you? And so we spent so much time on the internet looking at places and trying to figure out, is it a good fit or not? And ultimately we decided it was. So keep doing this, keep watching other videos, and start talking to people that already live there like myself. You can reach out to me anytime if you want and chat through and get my perspective on things. The second tip is to make a short list of the areas you're considering moving. So once you've decided that you're gonna move to Dallas, you've gotta start narrowing in on where you wanna live. The Dallas, Texas metro is absolutely huge, it's massive. And when you go into the process thinking that you can look at the whole entire metroplex as a place to live, it can be super overwhelming. And so start making a list of those top suburbs that you want to do, even ranking them from 1 to 10 or whatever. And the ultimate hack that we found in this whole process was to involve a realtor early on in the process, because they're ones that are boots on the ground, and they know they're the ones that if they learn about what you are, like what you like to do, who you are, all that kind of stuff, then they're able to give you suggestions as to what places might be a good fit for you. And so we did that. We got connected to the real estate agent right away, and we told him all about us, and he was able to recommend a few different areas within the Dallas, Texas metro that we were able to focus on, and it made our search way faster than if we were to consider all around the DFW metro. And if you want to reach out and brainstorm on what might be a good fit for you, then let me know. You can reach out anytime. And the third tip I'd give is to find an agent that specializes in working with out-of-state buyers, or that has at least worked with out-of-state buyers before. So the reason I say this is because we personally had a bad experience when we were trying to figure out how we're gonna move down here. We got connected with an agent initially that just wasn't a good fit, and it's to no fault of his, he hadn't specialized in working with out-of-staters before. And it comes with a whole different layer of complexities because you can't physically be there. And so a lot of the responsibility falls on the agent, and the agent has to be way more proactive and have way more communication than in a typical transaction. And so unfortunately, you take a lot of the weight being out of state if the agent isn't proactive, and you don't know what's best because you can't physically be there. You can't physically see the house all the time. You can't see what's around the house. You can't see if there's power lines running through the garage. You can't see if it backs up to a busy road. Like there's just a lot of things that you can't see in being in a different state. And unfortunately, it caused us to waste a lot of time looking at houses we never would have considered. And we honestly felt like we were in the driver's seat a lot versus the agent leading us through the process. And so make sure to find an agent that is going to lead you through that process, that's been through it before. And that's honestly why I decided that when I got into real estate, I wanted to help people that were relocating from out of state move to Dallas, because we've been through that process and we know all the complexities that can come with it. So no matter where you are in the process, reach out. I'd love to help you find the perfect place to call home here in the Dallas, Texas metro. Shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email anytime, seriously. And until next time, I will see you later.